Hello and welcome. Today we're talking about child and women rights. It's some point where we're continuously struggling. Despite several decades of efforts, we yet have a lot of ground to cover. Our guest today has been associated with several such causes. Today we have with us Ms. Shabana Azmi, who's an actor, an activist and an agitprop. If we talk about the laws in the country, we've got enough laws ensuring child rights, we've got enough laws ensuring rights of the women, rights of the girl child, rights against a lot of things that we don't want the society to be practicing. But when it comes to implementation, how do you think we can strengthen that?
Firstly, when it comes to sex selection, it is complex because a lot of doctors have told me that the mother comes to them and says, please, I cannot have another girl. Not only will she not get a decent life, I will be punished. I know how badly they want a male child. So on a humanistic level, they feel, then what do we do?
Right.
What do we do? Ka question hi nahi aa sakta. It's against the law and you cannot do it.
Yeah.
Simple. Okay. So the first thing is that anybody who's seen as colluding in this, the law must apply. I mean, there was this Navashera, the tiny district in Punjab, where the district magistrate completely was able to remove female feticide because he came down so heavily, and we ensured that there is conviction. So when there is breaking of law, the law has to apply. But in a lot of cases, the law has not been broken, but what the girl is being subjected to because of a patriarchal mindset is worse than even breaking the law. What do you do then? How can you progress unless you sensitize society to teach the girls and the boys equally? I am simply not satisfied with saying, "Arey, Hindustan mein to we worship our women." We don't want you to worship us.
Yeah.
We want you to treat us as equals.
Right.
We want to be treated as equality. Do not treat us as devis, because that is a way of saying, all right, we'll put you on a pedestal and we will deny you equality.
Right.
So we don't want that.
You just said that it's NGOs as a sector is very important. You think it's in your understanding it's very important. But when we talk about India as a country, we're a welfare state. And most of the work that these NGOs do are basic rights that these people are entitled to anyways. So why do we need the NGOs to function in a welfare state like us?
Well, because I don't think it's realistic to think that only the government is going to be able to do it. I don't think it is realistic. I mean, I can sit here and criticize the government ad nauseatum. That won't serve the purpose. That's why I am saying all the stakeholders, and I've always noticed that maximum success lies where the communities themselves are involved and they have a sense of ownership, and that comes from the NGO rather than the government. What happens with a lot of the government's policies that are really very good, the news of it never ever reaches the marginalized communities.
Right.
Now here is where the NGO becomes very important, because the NGO then speaks the language of rights and takes whatever is already present and works in a way that helps the community and challenges where it needs to challenge.
When we talk about individuals, the sort of modern society that we're progressing towards, nuclear families, a more sort of individualistic culture of existence. This is where we're progressing, what are the social sort of safety nets that we need in place societally to sort of ensure child rights? And because in a collectivist society, it's easier to ensure the well-being of a child because then the child belongs to the society. When we're talking about a nuclear family, when we're all concerned about ourselves, our well-being, who's going to take care of the child if not the system?
That's a very important question, and definitely the system has to be child friendly and has to recognize that a country can only be as strong as her children, because ultimately they are your future. And unless you are going to be invested in them financially, emotionally, in every way, your future is at stake. And so definitely the system needs to be much more child friendly than it is. But that's not the only thing. Because, I'm sorry, but I don't think parents can shirk their responsibilities and say that now because there is no grandmother to look after the child and my husband and wife are both working, so we can't do anything. ये नहीं चलेगा.
Right.
You will have to see, it is definitely demanding, because when you are working, when both parents are working and then children are out, how do you coordinate all of that? But the thing is, it can be done. If you give it priority, it can be done.
Certainly.
Now, both my parents were working parents. When my mother, Shaukat Kefi, used to go off on her Prithvi Theatre tours, my father used to look after us. He used to comb my hair. He used to take me to school. When mummy was away, then my father would take my brother Baba and I to the mushairas because we couldn't afford a maid. But we were equally brought up by our parents. I think the most important thing is that male responsibility in child rearing has to be encouraged. It cannot be only the responsibility of the woman in the family.
Certainly.
And if we can truly understand that, I think that can bring about a change.
After that happens, as you most certainly rightly said, that we've institutionalized the sort of from the start, the girl child it's not a level playing field. But even after that, do you think the economic policies of the country right now, they're in such a way that it leads to the exploitation of the child?
I think that's too harsh. It is too harsh a statement to make. But I would say that definitely the economic policies of our government need to be far more sensitive to children, beginning with education. I mean, look at the amount of money we spend on education and health.
Right.
For the last 20 years, I've been hearing that, the progress of a country cannot be measured only in terms of its GDP. It has to be measured in terms of its Human Development Index, as Amartya Sen says, in which empowerment of women, empowerment of the child is a very important part of that progress. Now, we've been saying that, but when push comes to shove and when we see where money has to be put in the budget, we find it sadly lacking.
Exactly. I was going to come to that, all the social sort of schemes that we have in the country right now, in the latest budget as well, the allocation of funds, it's not there. But we do all the talking that has to be done. The government has got, we have ministers talking about all the nice things in the world all the time. In situations like that, do you think our money is where our mouth is?
But you see, again, what you are doing is you are putting the entire blame at the door of the government. Of course, you're saying that it's a welfare state, and so that's where it should begin from. But I am saying, if this becomes a reason for shirking responsibility of the citizen and of the community, I'm not willing to accept that.
Right.
Because हमको जो है, हम क्या कर सकते हैं? Why aren't we more concerned? I think every person has the capacity to become a catalyst for change. Every single one of us. You don't have to change the world. You don't have to change the country. You don't have to change even your city. If you just work towards changing one little small neighborhood, you are doing your work. So to each her own, whoever can do whatever is what is required, because every single drop in the ocean matters.
When we talk about all of this, as per you, in your sense, are you satisfied or do you think that the government is committed enough towards these absolutely critical issues that concern the society?
Well, I feel that electoral politics, the very nature of electoral politics is such that your intention can only be that 4 years later you have to be re-elected. Okay, 4 years or 5 years, whatever the term is of the country. Now, because of that, you take only short-term measures. You take populist measures. You take measures that you feel, all right, will help me get elected. But there must be certain issues that you should decide as a country that never mind if it is the opposition, never mind if it is the ruling party, these are absolutely essential to the well-being of the country, and so irrespective of the political dispensation of the day, this must continue.
Right.
That we don't see at all.
My last question to you is that for over 4 decades now, you've been associated with similar causes, causes along the same line with different organizations. Sometimes does it not frustrate you? Do you not get tired to look at the pace at which things substantiate, change comes? Over and over, we've been saying the same things. How much have you seen changing?
I once posed this question to my father, Sadhika Azmi, and I said, when you're working for change, Abba, and it doesn't come at the pace you want it to, don't you get frustrated? And with extreme equanimity, he said, Bete, when you're working for change, you should build into that expectation the possibility that change might not come within your lifetime, and yet know that if you carry on working passionately and with sincerity, then change will come, even if it comes after you. So where's the question of frustration? That line from my father has become my mantra.
Thank you so much for talking to us.
Okay.
It was a pleasure. That was Miss Shabana Azmi with us, and as she beautifully said that, we have to keep working towards change, knowing that change might not come.